If you want to do it on the mat, and you want bolsters and blankets and things like that, that's up to you. You can do it seated, or you can do it laid on your back. All you have to remember is that you are being, as much as you can, aware, okay, and that you're not drifting off into sleep, if that makes sense, because that's considered to be distraction, cost of distraction. But anyway, I would, get your props set up now and have something to sit on so that your hips are higher than your knees. If you're doing it as a seated meditation, you can do it lying on your back. You can have a bolster underneath your knees. You can have a blanket underneath your hips. You can have a blanket on you. You can have an eye mask on. You can have your eyes closed, your eyes open. At the end of the day, there's no right or wrong way to do this practice. Just remember that you want comfort, and it's not something that you can not move. Being still helps, but if you need to move, that's great. Don't worry about it, obviously. What we're going to do is we're just going to try and be alert and relaxed at the same time. That's really, really important. So if you're seated, you imagine your spine being like a stack of golden coins with your chin slightly down, so you've got a nice long neck, and that your knees are not higher than your hips, that your hips are higher than your knees. That's the real important thing. Right, I'm going to start then, so just keep listening to me, and then when we start the actual meditation, obviously I will invite you to put it into turn off your speaker, but you can still hear me. Now, what we're going to be doing today, obviously last week we did 2 practices and we did a really big introduction to mindfulness, and I did the Metta, the mindfulness self-compassion Buddhist practice, which is very good. And I also did the shaking body practice, which is one where you shake your body and then you drop down into your physical body, and then you start to focus on your sensations. That's a really good one for if you've got an anxious mind and an anxious body, or you feel really stuck and quite frozen. So both of those are Buddhist. The shaking one is done by is it Mingyur Rinpoche, his brother. He does that. So mindfulness, you don't have to sit still. When you think about meditation, you think about having that singular focus and absolute stillness. With mindfulness, you can move, which is the good thing about it. So you can adapt it to any practice. You can do mindful walking, mindful hand washing, mindful in the shower. You can do mindfulness when you're washing the pots. You can do mindfulness in any movement-based or stillness-based practice. And whatever suits you, this is the whole point. We are going to explore all the key 5 practices that I'm going through that you know will suit you in any particular time or situation to suit your intention. So the one that we're going to do today is the insight practice, which is about exploring your mind, your body and your emotions. It's a very, very good practice for helping you to deconstruct your habits and patterns that come through social conditioning, and to get around all those self-sabotaging excuses we often give to ourselves, the narrativizing in our head that tells us that we don't need to put that time away, where we tend to avoid looking after our sort of physical and mental well-being. I keep looking at the 2 cameras because I'm obviously doing live and I apologise and doing Jitsi at the same time. So I'm going to talk first of all about the science of mindfulness, because I'm a very science-based sort of person. I'm not going to try and realign your chakras with crystals. Woo-woo! Not like that, I'm not going to invite Gwyneth Paltrow in here into the situation. Okay, I'm a very science-based person. Everything that I do is based on proper research, Harvard University and things like that. Obviously, Oxford Mindfulness, they do a master's and a degree in it, which is what Ruby Wax did. She did that. So basically, but I'll come back to that anyway. So I'll just go through the science. I'll explain how it works and how it really can help you to get through the roadblocks and patterns and things that stop you from looking after yourself. Now, obviously, what we mean by happiness and suffering from the Buddhist point of view, and I'm obviously going to explain that, is happiness is well-being and fundamentally resilience. Resilience meaning that it gets you through tough times, and this in particular, for a lot of people, whether you're well or whether you're not, you have an underlying issue that's going on with you at this time, can be quite tough. When we are going through difficulties, such as what we feel like at this particular moment, we can tend to pursue sort of short-term happiness fixes. And the trouble with that is it can make us vulnerable to the challenge of what we're going through at this particular time. So we're looking at how we can build resilience and happiness as the opposite of what Buddhists term as being suffering. So I'll use a few metaphors to sort of explain and sort of expand on that. Now, from the research that has been done, there was a very good scientific study that was done where there was given an app to quite a lot of people with from different backgrounds and ages and so forth. And they were given an app and they were supposed to register whenever their mind was meant to be wandering. And they found out that fundamentally our minds wander 47% of the time. Okay. And that is the biggest cause of suffering. Okay. Because what happens to our brain is it's busy, it's overthinking, and the Buddhists called this the monkey mind. You know, it's just jumping randomly from tree to tree, branch to tree, picking up on random thoughts. It's like when you wake up in the middle of the night. One minute you're thinking about, did you leave the gas on? Next minute you jump into something that you might have thought you might have said and said something wrong. And then you start thinking about tomorrow, and it's like very sort of random kind of way that your mind sort of works. This is called a kind of default mode, this ruminating that you do in your mind. It's located in the same part of your brain which is associated with addictive behaviour. I don't want to give that a label or give it the scientific label. I don't want you to worry about that, but it's associated with our sense of self. Okay. It's where we take things personally, and it's where we tend to contract and close up and isolate ourselves. So what normally happens is when we're in this particular place that we're in now and we pursue a short-term happiness fixes to cope with the difficulty that we may be going through, they call it the cost of distraction. And what we tend to do is we get into destructive behaviours to take us away from the difficult thought or emotion that we're feeling. Now, last week I said, using the poem Rumi, to try and explain that mindfulness and Buddhist practices puts out the welcome mat and says hello to difficult emotions, whereas we would try to find something to try and distract us from it. But the irony is what happens is it becomes like quicksand and it pulls us down further and further and further and further. The more you resist, the more you will struggle, the more you suffer, the more it becomes a challenge. Okay. So I think it was it Carl Jung who said, whatever you resist persists. That's the quicksand. Okay. The Buddhists basically say that the opposite of that is acceptance, to allow and to notice whatever is happening with a sense of non-attachment. But that, I explained last week, that's the challenge. But the more you notice, the more you become a third person, objective, detached person from your narrative in your brain and from that difficult emotion. And I will try and sort of demonstrate how to do that through the practice. Now, I'm going to use the metaphor of your brain as a house to try and explain how mindfulness basically works. Okay. What happens is with the cost of distraction and the narrativizing and the stuff is that we constantly think about the past, which is what depression is. We're constantly anxious about the future, which is what basically anxiety is. And mindfulness puts you in the present moment. So you're in between the past of depression and the anxiety of the future. We're in a constant anxious mode at the particular moment in time because we don't know what is going to go and happen next with the situation that we're in with the pandemic. And the Buddhists would say, well, just relax. You're not in control. That is our ego, basically, fundamentally, trying to take control of the situation. You cannot control anything that goes on in the world, only how we react to whatever life throws at us. So basically, if our brain is fundamentally a house, it has, you know, your ground floor and your first floor. On the first floor is your thinking brain, which we call the prefrontal cortex, which is just behind your forehead. This is where we plan, this is where we think, this keeps us calm and this keeps us balanced. This is where we're aware of how our behaviour affects others and also the result of our actions. It is that self-awareness, okay, that doesn't come into play. Now, I always used to think that your prefrontal cortex doesn't actually fully come into perfect online until you're about 25 if you're male and 21 if you're female. New studies have said that it's 30 for male and it's probably about 24, 25 for women. So basically, risk-taking behaviour that we associate with teenagers who are like, oh, I don't care how my behaviour affects you, and blah, blah, blah. And we always accuse teenagers of being selfish and not thinking calmly and are always constantly like reacting. Your brain will be more like that until it becomes totally settled when you get to like the age of 30. Okay. Because what normally happens is when we're stressed, the alarm bell rings in your ground floor part of your brain, which is the limbic system, the amygdala, the fight or flight, freeze, flop and befriend part of your brain. So fundamentally, that is the reptile brain that protects you, keeps you safe. It's your survival brain. And when it detects danger, it goes bing, 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 alarm. So all those characters on the ground floor, okay, what they do is they hijack the upper floor and take over. So you can't think, you can't plan, you can't be calm, you can't be balanced, and your behaviour becomes quite erratic. Now what happens with mindfulness is it makes both top and bottom floor work together. It builds the stair between them too, and it integrates them. Okay, so when we're stressed, now we don't know we're stressed. At the moment we're probably suffering from a low level form of stress. Stress isn't a dinosaur anymore coming to chase us. Okay, it can be work, it can be our environment, it can be anything that's going on in our life. It can be just that little bit of that hum, that little bit buzz, you know, a little bit of that, like, you know, it's like when you hear the engine in Star Trek, it's just like running underneath. We're never really fully aware of what's going on when our brain is like that. But when we go into fight or flight, we're going to basically be hypervigilant. Hypervigilant means that we're ready to fight or fight, aren't we? Whatever we feel is attacking us, so it can come out in aggressive behaviour, or, you know, teenager storming out of the room, I'm not doing my homework, blah, blah, blah. Now, the trouble is, if you get too much stress, you get hypervigilant, which is the ventral vagal one, which is linked to trauma. Okay, well, that's when you go into freeze, flop and befriend. What do we mean by freeze, flop and befriend is when we just completely get too much stress, too much cortisol in our bodies, and we shut down and freeze. Okay. Before that, when we're in fight or flight, we feel tense, our breath gets shallow, we feel hot, we get a headache, we feel nauseous, we get butterflies in our stomach, we need to go to the toilet, and we're just wired like that, aren't we? But then we go, then too much, and then we completely go into acute shutdown. This is what could be potentially dangerous about in this situation here, where we are trapped in our own houses and we are becoming literally in that kind of freeze flop. Freeze flop, when I talk about freeze flop befriend, is, you know, one of the common things that's cited in trials where women have had to talk about their attackers is they will say, well, why did you not fight back? Number one, and two, why did you try to befriend your attacker, like the Stockholm syndrome? It's a natural reaction to protect you from being attacked. Okay, so that really going down there to that befriending and freeze flop and just not doing anything when you're physically being attacked is a natural traumatic response. So when you're in acute stress all the time, the trouble is it weakens your immune system. Okay, which means that fundamentally at the end of the day, okay, it can cause, when it weakens the immune system, you get immune diseases can take over: heart disease, blood pressure, IBS, arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis. Most people, if you've ever read a Hungarian doctor who's American called Gabor Mate, he basically fundamentally says that people who have had a severe traumatic experience, okay, where it triggers their immune system, which starts to attack their body. Because what normally happens is, what is the danger out there? We fight, our body fights back because it knows where the danger is, it can locate it. That's the dinosaur. Now what happens is, if the danger is just a virus, there is nothing it can attack. So what happens to your immune system? Your immune system starts to attack you, your inside of your body. And that's what basically happens with immune diseases, such as like serious things like MS and chronic fatigue. So what basically happens is mindfulness puts that break between feeling and action, up and down, bottom, top of the house, working together. And it's the opposite of mind wandering, okay? Mindlessness by being mindful. So when I said whatever you resist, you persist, which is what Carl Jung basically says, allowing and noticing, feeling, welcoming, putting out the welcome mat, saying hi to all the difficult stuff that's happening in your body, your mind, your emotions, sensing it, opening up to it, expanding into it. Otherwise, what are we doing if we deny even the most difficult of emotions? We are ending up denying the full experience fundamentally of what it means to be human, a human being, and to be alive. Otherwise we just get stuck and we go around and round in circles. Okay, and what we try to do as well is always like, oh, I've got to rationalise and fix it, I've got to do it now, I've got to do it now. That's what Buddhist mindfulness-based practices don't do. It's not about fixing, it's not about judging, it's not about pushing it away, it's not about ignoring it, it's about completely opening up to the difficulty of that situation. Now obviously, if we need to loosen up to this conditioning of our Western society that says you have to fix stuff now, you know, we have to rationalise whatever emotion is happening and we can sort that out. We can't really do that. What we have to do instead is we have to do the Buddhist thing where we pay attention and we invite it in. Now, obviously, what we're going to do with this practice now is we're going to explore, but I don't want you to worry about at any point if things get difficult, because I will give you some little bit of tricks to. Now, obviously, the further away from this, you do titration and pendulation, which is a trauma-based, aware, mindfulness-based practice. I will give you a little bit of a trick for titration in case you come across something that you're not ready to go in for, you know. I'm not saying, you know, you're going to go into the abyss and you're going to get swallowed up, because you're not, because you're just going to play around the edges of whatever is happening in your body. Now, obviously, yoga and mindfulness is a holistic mind, body, emotion based practice. So whatever is happening in your body physically is a representation of what's going on in your mind. So I'll give one example. If you're feeling it really, really here, it may just be that fundamentally this is something going on up here. Okay, so we feel emotions in our body and they get trapped. And that's what most modern science-based, trauma-based practices have found, especially if you look at Gabor Mate, the body feels the scar, I think. He does a lot of work in the realm of hungry ghosts. He does a really good book about addiction, because like I said, it's the same place where you ruminate, it's the same place where addiction happens. Who are the people with, I work with people who are in prison, they've got addictions to heroin and alcohol because they've had traumatic abusive childhoods, and they found their way of trying to heal. That was their way. Mindfulness is the other way. It's been I've been reading lots of papers recently about how mindfulness has 14 times better outcomes when it comes to dealing with addiction, such as alcohol and drugs, than any other types of forms of CBT or something like other types of, you know, AA or whatever. You know, you can do AA and mindfulness at the same time. I know people who I work in the yoga community. Irony is, most of the yoga teachers I know who do mindfulness have got addiction and mental health problems, addiction to alcohol, drugs, eating disorders. I read a really fantastic article this morning. It was Christopher Eccleston who played the first Doctor reboot Who, and Christopher Eccleston said he was very, very ill when he did the Doctor reboot, and that's why he had to finish, because he had body dysmorphia, anorexia, and he said he's been struggling with his mental health all his life. He ended up in a mental institution about a few years ago, and he's written a book about it, and he's been completely honest about his body dysmorphia, how being northern, when he was younger he wanted to be androgynous, and he said, you know, you couldn't do that, you know, and sort of like he sort of talked quite candidly about that experience. So what we're going to do with this practice then is I want you to get into your position now. if you're seated, obviously, alert and relaxed. So whatever feels comfortable, as long as you feel as though that you're comfortable for the next half an hour. If you're laid on your back, lay on your back. Don't feel as though that this is some kind of marathon that you have to stay perfectly still. Don't worry about that. If you need to move, just do it with mindful attention by focusing on the movement as you feel it. So you can make this as indulgent as you want. You can lay down. That's the important thing. Comfort is really, really important. Okay. I'm going to ring the bell. The bell will signal the beginning and the bell will signal the end. But I'll take you down in through it and then I'll bring you back out. I will not kind of go bing and then you're going to go, whoa, where am I? Hello. It's not going to happen like that. Obviously the bell does help because it gives a sense of structure to it. Okay. So I'm going to ring the bell. You can have your eyes closed or a soft gaze looking down just slightly ahead of your shins, or eyes closed with a mask on, laid on your back, knees bent, whatever feels comfortable. It will be a slightly long practice because we're going to do a body-based mind and emotion scan. I've decided to add extra bits into it today because I think we need more self-compassion. So I've added the metta. I'm also going to add compassion into this practice. The reason why is we need it more than ever because we are not getting the oxytocin from hugging other people. We're not getting that oxytocin from contact with other people. You can still get it from seeing people, but you need to touch and feel people. So this has got a somatic element to it. It means soma means that we're getting inside the sensation of our body. And when we miss that touch, physical touch is all part of our well-being. It's so important. So we're going to start with the compassion with ourselves. And if you need to put a hand on any part of your body, this is a good practice as well. I know I mentioned Christopher Erickson, but it's a very good practice if you've got body dysmorphia issues or an eating disorder, or you see your body in a way that's quite negative, because we do. So if you want to put some love into that place where you think, oh my God, I don't like my stretch, because I've got massive stretch marks. I don't like my master stretch marks and I don't like that part of my body, and I just put a bit of love into that place, that's the nice thing. Okay, so I'm going to start it. We're all ready. So I'm going to ring the bell and I will take you through it. Okay, just nice and gently. I'll try not to be too soft in my voice because of the sound. So I'd like you to adopt a warm-hearted attention to each part of the body. And if you have any unpleasant sensations or judgments, just allow your heart to soften to this part with compassion and empathy for that struggle. And if you want to just place a hand as a gesture of kindness and compassion on that part of the body. If any part of the body is difficult to stay with, just feel free to move your attention elsewhere. You can come to the breath, or more comfortably to a part of the body where you feel blankness, or even just a sense of grounding. So you may want to focus on your hips against the floor, your hands against your thighs. Move to a part of the body that feels comfortable for you. And this is not an endurance test. You can shift your position at any point, as long as you stay alert and relaxed. I'd like you to bring gentle attention to the crown of your head and just notice any physical sensations such as tingling, vibrations, maybe pressure, perhaps temperature. Can you feel warmth or coolness? Maybe even noticing an absence of sensations. And as we descend through the body with tender awareness and kindness and playful curiosity, just notice sensations now in your forehead. Perhaps you feel a sense of tightness there, maybe the skin pulling tight, heaviness, cloudiness, or perhaps a lightness. Whatever you feel now, just simply notice without analysing, judging, or looking for reasons why you feel what you feel. You're just noticing, simply aware. Notice your brain underneath, and your head, and your forehead, and appreciate the work that your brain does for 24/7. Whether that's being thinking, creating, understanding and communicating, and making a sense of this world all around us. This sense of gratitude will help you to move awareness now to your eyes, and just notice whatever you feel here. Appreciate what your eyes do, see, read and connect us to our world. And then notice your ears. Just come to your ears, and perhaps you might feel pressure in this particular place. Maybe tingling or heat. Again, have a sense of gratitude for your hearing and all the beautiful sounds that you hear during the day. Can you feel sensations now in and around your nose? Maybe even movement of the breath. Sensations such as coolness and warmth as the breath goes in and out. And just be grateful for your ability to breathe and to sense of smell. At any point, just feel free to touch or gently give a hug to any part of the body. Now move your attention to your mouth and just notice any sensations here. Your lips, your tongue, your teeth, maybe even sensations of moisture, movement, contact, warmth, and just a sense of appreciation for all the delicious tastes that your mouth can offer you when you eat all that lovely food, and your ability to breathe and to sing and to communicate and to laugh and to even to kiss. And now move to your cheeks and your jaw. Just notice what you feel here right now. Maybe tension. Just simply notice with tender-hearted attention the best you can allow. If it feels tight, maybe you can allow this space to soften and release. And just feel grateful that this part of your face allows you to eat, to speak and smile. And now bring your attention to the back of your head. If you're laid against the floor, you might notice the contact. Notice any other sensations here and appreciate the protection that your head offers to your brain. And bring a kind awareness, noticing now your neck, how it supports your head all day. Offer compassion if you feel any tension or discomfort in this part of the body. And don't worry if your mind wanders. That's completely natural. This is normal, it's part of the practice. Every time you notice you're practicing mindfulness, gently bring your attention back to simply the part of the body or your focus. Bring it back now to the shoulders. Feel here. Notice any tension. Try, if you can, opening up with tender-heartedness to your shoulders. Soften and release, especially if you feel that physically that you've been holding a lot of tension here. With a gentle curiosity, move now down your left arm, upper arm, and your elbow and lower arms, your wrist, your hand, your fingers. Notice the sensations that arise in your left arm. Be grateful what your arm and your fingers are able to do for you. Sense of touch, to be able to hold and to hug. And then bring your awareness down to the right arm the same way. With compassionate awareness, notice the upper arm and the elbow and the forearm. Your wrist, your hand and your fingers. And bring your attention now into the sensations of your upper back. And let it come and go without getting caught up in any sensations. Try not to resist. Just feel whatever you feel. And bring your attention now into the chest. Notice movement, the breath, the heartbeat. Just appreciate the vital work that these organs do for you. Love, warmth and compassion flowing from your heart. And if you want to, place your hand on your heart and notice how that feels right here, right now. And remember, you can feel free if there's too much discomfort or if it feels difficult emotionally. You can move to another part of the body, another sensation that feels comfortable. Or you can come to the breath. Feel the sensation of your hand gently caressing, giving you comfort, if that feels good for you now. Now move with kind awareness to your abdomen. Just notice closely and gently whatever you perceive or feel in this space, right here, right now. Maybe you notice the contact of your abdomen against your clothes. Whatever you perceive, whatever comes up, just notice the breath. Sending gratitude to all the organs inside and what they do for you. Don't worry if any judgments come up for any part of your body that we name and explore with open-hearted attention. Just say kind words of acceptance and shift your attention now to your lower back. And just notice feelings of stress and tension. Just notice the muscles, imagine them relaxing and dissolving, softening, and bringing a loving awareness now into the hips and feel the connection to whatever is holding and supporting you now. Move your awareness and sensation down into your left leg. Feel your thighs, your knee, your calf, your ankle. Send an appreciation to any part you feel. Compassion for the discomfort as well. Kind words, even if you say to yourself, may you be well, may you be at ease. And feel now into the bottom of that left foot. Feel your sole and your toes and your heel. Any sensations at all. Then move your awareness now into your right leg. Feel your thigh. Feel into your knee. Feel into your calves and your shins. And feel into your ankle, the sole of your foot, and the bottom of your foot. Just bring open-hearted attention into the bottom of your feet now and appreciate all that your feet do for you, holding you up all day. How hard they work And perhaps show them both gratitude. And then open up your awareness to the entirety of your whole body. Show your whole body appreciation and compassion and respect. And then open out that curiosity to the place that you have found the most emotional charge in your physical body. It may be in the midline. Most common places are in the heart or the abdomen or the neck. Somewhere that you feel the most charge of tension and stress. Imagine you're like a field naturalist. Your friendly curiosity, as if you're looking at your body, as if you're looking at little creatures in the forest. A kind of parental friendliness. Just noticing that spot there. And wherever that spot is, whether it's emotional or energetic or physical, just move around it curiously on the edges, almost as if it's a pile of tennis balls. You can hover over it. You can zoom into it. It may be pleasant, it may be unpleasant. Can you soften into it? Can you give yourself permission to feel that full sensation? Allow it to express itself. If it feels difficult, you can titrate and just go in gently, little by little. And if you want to retreat, just come back and relocate somewhere where you feel grounded and safe, such as your hands, touching your thighs, your hips on the floor, or your feet on the ground. If you feel confident, do you want to peek and just slightly go in? Choose the pace, whatever feels right, exploring this space. Sit with it. Be curious. Notice how it changes. Can you notice what sensations come and go with this area of intensity? Or is it shrinking? Or is it staying the same? Just notice. Just be a knower of your experience rather than analysing what you feel. Just notice. Just let the sensations come and go. Don't struggle. Don't fight. Can you be quiet and less intense? Can you be curious? Can you be compassionate? Can you be kind and look closely at all of its tiny, subtle qualities? Can you pay attention? Can you go inside? Just let it happen. And if your mind wanders, bring yourself back to whatever you're focusing on. If it's too much, take yourself away and sense something that feels comfortable to you. Just be aware how you investigate this spot. Is your body stiffening and your face becoming tight? Just let it go, let it be. Let it be easy. Just explore. Almost as if you're leaning back and looking at it from a distance. that third person objective observation that there is a space between you and it. And if nothing happens, can you be okay with it? And now start to bring your attention away from the area of most charge. Become aware of your body against whatever is supporting you. Your hands on your thighs and your feet on the floor. Start to become aware of sounds. See if you can observe and be aware of the furthest sound that you could hear in the distance. Become aware of all tactile sensations. And release your focus and allow your mind and your body and your heart to just rest and be just as it is. So when you feel ready, you might want to start to gently wiggle your fingers and toes. Open your eyes, stretch, do whatever feels good for you at this present moment. So, just a little bit of a debrief before I finish. Why a body scan? A body scan is very important because it helps us to practice awareness. It's a safe place to explore because you're not having a large space where other things that could be challenging can fill it. It gives you a focus. The body scan as well helps you to be aware of your body, and that helps you to practice more self-care. The more you are aware of your body and practice mindful attention of your body, the more that you are able to treat it with greater compassion. Emotionally, we trap certain parts of our psyche in our body, and the more we can work with the body first as a bottom up approach, start with the, rather than we in the West, we start with the brain. It's like, let's go see a psychologist, let's see somebody who is a counsellor. Now, that sometimes can be opening a box of worms. If we start with the body, with a somatic practice, a bottom-up approach, which is yoga and mindfulness, it's a safer way, and it's sometimes an easier way to get into difficult things, because you can work with the grounding of the body and the safety of the body, and you're telling your body that you're safe, and that you don't have to talk about emotions. But the tension, the emotions in your brain are the tensions in your body. So you can release them, you can breathe into them, and you can practice yoga, which really is a very somatic bottom-up approach. So start with the body, work your way up. And that's the best form, I would say, of practice that I would recommend if we're dealing with stuff that's challenging. But there you go. That's just my sort of take on things based on science. So